My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I just turned 35. I should have been celebrating my daughter Emma's 8th birthday party, surrounded by family and laughter, but instead I found myself watching my little girl perched uncomfortably on a wooden stool while her cousins sprawled across matching chairs around the dining table. Something inside me finally exploded after years of watching my family treat us like second-class citizens in our own bloodline. You know that moment when you realize you've been accepting crumbs when you deserved the whole meal? When you suddenly see with crystal clarity that what you thought was normal family dynamics was actually systematic diminishment. That was me, standing in my sister-in-law's perfectly decorated dining room, watching my daughter's shoulders slump as she tried to reach her birthday cake from that wobbly stool. The room fell silent when I walked over, took Emma's hand, and said those words that would change everything. We don't beg for space. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cause a scene. But in that moment, I drew a line in the sand that I should have drawn years ago. If you've ever felt like the family doormat, if you've ever wondered why you're always the one who has to adjust, accommodate, and accept less, then this story is for you. Because sometimes the most radical act of love is teaching your child that they deserve better than what you settled for. The Mitchell family looked perfect from the outside. 3 siblings, successful careers, beautiful homes in the same suburban neighborhood. My older brother David had married Rebecca, a woman who could organize a charity gala and make it look effortless. My younger sister Lisa had found her match in Tom, both of them climbing corporate ladders with matching ambition. Then there was me, the middle child who became a single mother at 27 when Emma's father decided fatherhood wasn't in his 5-year plan. While David and Rebecca built their empire and Lisa and Tom collected promotions, I was building a different kind of life. Smaller, quieter, less convenient for family gatherings. Our parents, God bless them, had always been peacemakers. They'd raised us with the philosophy that family comes first, that we stick together no matter what. What they hadn't anticipated was how that beautiful sentiment could become a weapon in the wrong hands. How keeping the peace could become code for Sarah will understand, and Emma can adapt. The pattern started innocently enough. Rebecca would plan family dinners for 6, then remember to include Emma and me as an afterthought. Lisa would book vacation rentals with 3 bedrooms, leaving Emma and me to share a pull-out couch. It was always presented as logistics, never malice. We were the flexible ones, the easygoing ones, the ones who understood that sometimes accommodations just couldn't be made. The first time I noticed the inequality, Emma was 4. We'd arrived at David and Rebecca's house for Thanksgiving, and Rebecca had spent 20 minutes explaining the beautiful tablescape she'd created, how each place setting had been carefully curated. There were 8 elegant chairs around their dining room table. 9 people were coming to dinner. Sarah, would you mind terribly if you and Emma shared the bench by the window? It's actually quite cozy, and Emma might like being able to see the backyard. Rebecca's smile was warm, apologetic, genuine. I believed her then that it was an oversight, a simple miscalculation. Emma climbed onto that bench with the enthusiasm only a 4-year-old can muster, delighted by the novelty. I squeezed in beside her, balancing my plate on my lap, telling myself this was what flexibility looked like. This was what being the good sister meant. But as years passed, the bench became a metaphor. Emma and I were always the ones adjusting. When Rebecca's book club needed a babysitter, Emma could sleep on my couch for the night. When Lisa's promotion required celebration, Emma and I could skip the fancy restaurant and join them for dessert later. When David's work trips aligned with family gatherings, Emma and I could handle the setup and cleanup. Each time, there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. Each time, I said yes because saying no felt selfish. Each time, Emma watched me shrink a little smaller, asking for a little less, expecting even less than that. The normalization happened so gradually I didn't even notice it. Somewhere along the way, being an afterthought became our normal. Being grateful for scraps became our default. Emma learned to pack light for family trips because there might not be space for her things. She learned to eat quickly at family dinners because someone might need her seat. She learned that love sometimes looked like making yourself smaller, so others could be more comfortable. The pattern became undeniable during Emma's 7th year. At David's birthday party, Rebecca had ordered a beautiful cake with 7 candles, one for each family member. Emma wasn't counted. When I gently pointed it out, Rebecca's face flushed with embarrassment. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Emma, honey, you can share Mommy's piece." Emma nodded with the practiced grace of a child who'd learned not to expect her own slice of anything. 3 months later, Lisa announced her engagement with a family photo session. The photographer had been given specific instructions about posing the family of 6. Emma and I stood awkwardly to the side until the photographer, confused, asked if we were part of the family too. Of course they are. Lisa laughed, but the reshoot felt forced, our inclusion an obvious afterthought captured forever in those perfectly filtered images. The financial cost was becoming impossible to ignore. I'd spent over $2,000 last year on gifts for nieces and nephews, birthday parties and celebrations, while Emma's birthdays were acknowledged with cards and token gifts. When Emma needed school supplies, I bought them alone. When she had a school play, I sat alone. When she was invited to cousins' sleepovers, I provided the transportation and picked up the pizza, but was never invited to stay for the adult conversation that followed. I started documenting these moments, not intentionally, but they accumulated in my memory like evidence in a case I wasn't ready to prosecute. Emma's face when her cousin got the bedroom, and she got the air mattress. Emma's quiet acceptance when she was told the swimming pool was too crowded for one more person. Emma's practiced smile when she was handed the paper plate, while everyone else got china. My friends began to notice before I did. "Why do you always have to bring something when you visit your family?" my colleague asked. "Why does Emma never get to be the birthday girl at family gatherings?" my neighbor wondered. Their outside perspective highlighted what my family loyalty had obscured. This wasn't normal sibling dynamics. This was systematic exclusion dressed up as logistics. Emma's 8th birthday fell on a Saturday. I'd planned a small party at our apartment, but Rebecca had insisted on hosting it at their house. We have so much more space, and the cousins can all play together. It seemed generous, thoughtful even. I should have trusted my instincts. I arrived with Emma to find the dining room set for 10 people. 8 matching chairs around the table, 2 additional seats that clearly didn't belong. One was a folding chair from their garage. The other was a wooden stool from their kitchen counter. "I'm so sorry," Rebecca said, not looking sorry at all. David's parents decided to come last minute, and Lisa brought Tom's brother. "We're just a bit short on seating." She gestured to the folding chair and stool like she was offering us front row seats to a concert. Emma looked at the stool, then at me, then at her cousins already claiming the proper chairs. At 8 years old, she was reading the room with the sophistication of someone who'd learned early that her comfort was negotiable. "It's okay, Mommy," she whispered, moving toward the stool. "I don't mind." But I minded. I minded that my daughter had learned not to mind. I minded that she was accepting diminishment as love. I minded that this beautiful, brilliant, deserving child thought she was worth less than a proper chair at her own birthday celebration. The room was buzzing with conversation, cousins laughing, adults discussing weekend plans. No one was watching when I walked over to Emma, who was trying to balance on that stool with the dignity of someone twice her age. I took her hand. The room didn't go quiet dramatically like in movies. Most people didn't even notice at first. "We don't beg for space," I said, not to the room but to her. Loud enough for everyone to hear, but directed at the person who mattered most. We left that day. Not in anger, not with dramatic door slamming or raised voices. We simply left. Emma asked why in the car, and I told her the truth. "Because you deserve a proper chair, baby. You deserve to be planned for, not squeezed in." The phone calls started that evening. Rebecca, hurt and confused. David, practical and dismissive. Lisa, caught in the middle and uncomfortable with conflict. My parents, worried about family unity and wondering if I was overreacting. But Emma's question that night changed everything. "Mommy, why didn't anyone save me a chair?" Not angry, not accusing. Just curious about the logistics of love. I started saying no. No to last-minute babysitting that disrupted our plans. No to family gatherings where Emma and I were afterthoughts. No to gift-giving expectations that weren't reciprocated. No to making ourselves smaller so others could be more comfortable. The pushback was immediate and intense. I was being dramatic, oversensitive, selfish. I was destroying family harmony over furniture. I was teaching Emma to be demanding and ungrateful. But Emma started sitting up straighter. She started expecting her own piece of cake. She started asking for what she needed instead of accepting what was left. She started believing she was worth planning for. 6 months later, David called to invite us to his promotion celebration. "Rebecca wants you to know she's ordered a cake for 11 people this time," he said, and I could hear the eye roll in his voice. But when we arrived, there were 11 proper chairs around the table. Emma's had her name written on a small card. It wasn't perfect. Change never is. Lisa still sometimes forgot to include us in initial plans, but now she called to correct the oversight instead of expecting us to squeeze in. Rebecca started asking Emma directly what she wanted for her birthday instead of assuming she'd be happy with whatever was left. My parents struggled the most with the new boundaries. They'd built their identity around family harmony, and my refusal to keep the peace challenged their core beliefs. But slowly they began to see what I was protecting. They started noticing when Emma was excluded, speaking up in moments when they'd previously stayed silent. The most surprising change was in Emma herself. She started advocating for friends who were being left out at school. She started expecting teachers to provide enough supplies for everyone. She started believing that her presence was valuable, not burdensome. Our relationship with the family evolved from obligatory to intentional. We spent less time together, but the time we spent was better, more genuine, built on mutual respect rather than one-sided accommodation. Today, Emma is 9. Yesterday, she came home from a play date and told me about how her friend's older sister had excluded her from a game. I told her we don't beg for space in friendships either, Emma said matter-of-factly. Then I called you to pick me up. That phrase has become our family motto, our North Star, our reminder that dignity isn't negotiable. We don't beg for space in relationships, in families, in friendships, or in life. We create our own space or we find better spaces that welcome us fully. The hardest part of breaking generational patterns is that you often break them alone. You have to decide that your child's worth matters more than your family's comfort. You have to choose their future over your past. If you're reading this and recognizing your own stool, your own folding chair, your own corner where you've learned to make yourself small, I want you to know that you deserve better. Your children deserve to see you take up space, demand respect, and refuse to accept crumbs. We don't beg for space. We make it, we claim it, and we teach the next generation that they're worthy of proper chairs at every table that matters.